Hello students, welcome to Biotech Academy. We'll continue our discussion on protein structure and its architecture. Now, just revising what are proteins from our previous lectures. Proteins are the polymers of amino acids, and these amino acids are connected through peptide bonds to form a linear polypeptide. This polypeptide chain, this linear chain of amino acids is then folded into a specific conformation for a complete functional, to form a complete functional proteins. In general, a protein can have up to uh, four levels of structural conformations. So there are four levels of protein structure. First is primary structure. Second is secondary structure. Okay. Third is tertiary structure, and fourth is quaternary structure. So these are various levels of protein. These are various levels of protein structure, and of these, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary structure, these are collectively referred to as three-dimensional conformation. These are referred to as three-dimensional conformation of proteins. All right. So all functional proteins may have at least have up to tertiary level of structures. However, there are many proteins which attain quaternary level of organized structural conformation as well. Okay, so up to for functional proteins, they will have up to tertiary, at least they have up to tertiary level of conformations. Okay, so we'll discuss each level of organization, each levels in detail. So first, coming to the primary level or the primary structure. So what do you mean by primary structure of a protein, and what all information do you get from this primary structure of proteins? So basically, primary structure is nothing but the linear chain of amino acids, or the correct order of amino acids in which they are arranged. That is just the linear chain that is known as the primary structure. So here from the primary structure you get two informations. First, the total number of amino acid residues that are present in particular protein, and second, the correct sequence. So the correct sequence of the amino acids in which they are present in that particular protein, that you get from the primary structure. So what all information you get from the primary structure? It is just, primary structure is the linear arrangement of amino acid residues. So you get two informations you can get from this primary structure. That is the number of, or you can say the total number of amino acids which are present in that particular protein, and the correct order or the sequence of amino acids in that particular protein. And the sequence which you can get from the primary structure is always starts from the N terminus to the C terminus. Remember, in my previous lecture I told you about that by convention the N terminal, or where the amino acid, the first amino acid where the amino group is free from any of the bond, it does not take part in any of the bond formation, it has a free amino group that is known as N-terminus, and it is by convention, it is the starting of the protein is always N-terminus and the end of the protein is always a carboxyl terminus or the C-terminus. So protein in general have two termini, N-terminus and C-terminus. N-terminus is the beginning and C-terminus is the end of the protein. So primary structure, the correct sequence you have is always from N-terminus. So the first amino acid which is present in any is always at the N-terminus. So this is first, and suppose it has 15 amino acids, so the 15th amino acid residue will have the free carboxyl group, and that will behave as the C-terminus end. Alright, so this is the primary structure, and this primary structure, how the amino acid residues are connected? They are connected by peptide bonds. So the primary structure is stabilized by which type of bonds? It is stabilized by peptide bonds. Okay, so if you go back to the previous video where I have described what are the various bonds which are involved in stabilizing these various levels of protein structural organization. So there are 5 major types of bonds. First is peptide bond, then hydrogen bonds, then covalent bonds, hydrophobic interactions, and van der Waals interactions. So these are 5 types of bonds, but here in the primary structure, which of these 5 peptide bonds are involved? Because it is just the linear arrangement of amino acids, linear chain of amino acids, and these amino acid residues, they are connected by peptide bond. So peptide bond is stabilizing the primary structure of the protein. Okay, and when you do the bioinformatics studies, this particular sequence of amino acids plays a very important role, because from from the sequence of the amino acid residues, you search various databases and get information about the various physicochemical properties or the structural properties or various different types of studies, or how it will interact with other proteins, its interactome studies, and all these different studies you can get from the bioinformatics studies. There are different tools and there are different databases. So what you search against your query sequence is the primary sequence or the primary sequence of the amino acid. So that is where the primary structure or the primary sequence plays a very important role. And also it is the particular sequence of these amino acids, or you can say the amino acid residues, how they are connected in this primary chain, and what all amino acid residues of the 20, which of these amino acid residues are present in that particular polypeptide, will determine what type of secondary or tertiary or quaternary structure that particular protein will attain. So it is dependent on the amino acids which are present on that particular polypeptide chain. So the primary structure itself will determine what kind of secondary, tertiary or quaternary structure that particular polypeptide will arrange itself into. Alright, so this is about primary structure. Now coming to the secondary structure, that is the next level of organization of protein structure, that is the secondary structure. So the secondary structure is the local conformation, which it is a local area of the particular of a polypeptide. So suppose a polypeptide is of 50 residues. In a polypeptide there are 50 residues. Of among those 50 residues, there will be certain regions which will fold into specific shapes, and that is known as secondary structure. So it is not the entire polypeptide will fold into that particular conformation, but certain parts, certain regions of that polypeptide will fold into specific conformations, and that is known as secondary structure. Okay, and these secondary structures, they are stabilized. The main driving force which stabilizes the secondary structure are hydrogen bonds. Now the most important point over here is about the R groups of the participating amino acids. Okay, so here in the secondary structure, the R groups of the involved amino acids, they do not participate in the hydrogen bond formation. So you have to be very clear about this, that the R groups do not participate in hydrogen bond formation and stabilizing the secondary structure. The hydrogen bonds are formed between the carboxyl carbon and amino nitrogen of the peptide bonds. Okay, this is one of the very important point about secondary structure, and many questions in the CSIR NET exam are asked on this particular topic, this particular point, that whether R groups are involved in the stabilization of the secondary structure or not. Okay, so the R groups of the participating amino acids, they are not involved in the stabilization of the secondary structure, or rather you can say that these R groups they do not take part in the hydrogen bond formation. So there are two types of secondary structure which a polypeptide can attain. First is alpha helix and second is beta sheet. Beta sheet could be parallel beta sheets or anti-parallel beta sheets. Okay, so we'll discuss about these. First, alpha helix. This particular form of secondary structure of proteins was first determined by Pauling and Corey. Experimental evidence was determined by Pauling and Corey. So what is an alpha helix? Alpha helix was first of all it was determined by experimentally by Pauling and Corey, and in this structure what happens, in this structure the linear chain is wrapped around an imaginary axis in the helical conformation, and the R groups of the amino acids, they protrude outwards. So suppose this is an imaginary central axis, so and this is a linear chain. This is these blue dots, they are the amino acids. So this is the black line indicates the imaginary axis. So these attain a helical conformation in this way. So this is known as alpha helix. Okay, and the R groups, they are outwards they protrude outwards from the imaginary central axis. Okay, so this is the kind of structure, diagrammatic representation of alpha helix. Okay, and how we'll study in detail how the hydrogen bonds are formed over here. Okay, so first try to understand the R groups. They are bulging outwards. So, and they are not involved in the hydrogen bond formation. The hydrogen bond is formed between the nth carbonyl carbon, and fourth amino hydrogen atom, okay, of the peptide bond in the linear chain. Okay, so if we look into the atomic structure, how it will, so suppose this is the nth alpha carbon atom, C double bond O, NH, then C alpha, this is N plus 1, C double bond O, NH, then C alpha, N plus 2, C double bond O, NH, C alpha, this is third, then C double bond O, NH, C alpha, this is N plus 4, C double bond O, NH. Okay, and it will continue further. So how the hydrogen bonds are formed? The hydrogen bond will be formed between this oxygen atom, this, I'll use a black marker to demonstrate first and third. Okay, so this. So once they're wrapped around, these will come closer and the hydrogen bond will be formed here. Again, the hydrogen bond will be formed between this oxygen. Okay, so this is how the hydrogen bonds are formed in the alpha helix between the nth and n plus third, n plus 1 and n plus 4, one carbonyl oxygen and one amino nitrogen, one carbonyl oxygen and amino nitrogen. So this is how the hydrogen bonds are formed between the more electronegative, sorry, this is not nitrogen, sorry, this is hydrogen. Okay, I'm sorry. So this more electronegative oxygen atom and less electronegative hydrogen atom, so this attains partial positive, this attains partial negative, and between these two oppositely charged ions a bond is formed that is known as hydrogen bond. Okay, so this is how the hydrogen bonds are formed, and because of this it imparts there are certain specific features, salient features of an alpha helix. What are those features? So because there are certain important features of these alpha helices. So these are the most, first important point is these are the most common secondary structure which is present. Then second, the pitch. What is a pitch? The pitch is the distance between two consecutive turns. So if they are wrapped around an imaginary axis, so this is one turn, this is the other turn. So the distance between these two is known as pitch, and this distance is 5.4 Armstrong, or you can say 0.54 nanometers. Okay, the pitch is this is specific or specific for alpha helices. Then every turn will have 3.6 amino acid residues are present. Okay, every turn there are 3.6 amino acid residues which are present. Then there are 13 atoms, so 3.6 amino acids, and there are 13 atoms in each turn. Okay, so 13 atoms with carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and all. So if you count them, there are 13 atoms in each turn, and the distance between each turn is 5. That is also called as pitch, that is 5.4 Armstrong, and each turn the residues are 3.6 amino acid residues are involved. Okay, so these are some of the important points, important features. Then these are stabilized by hydrogen bonds. Okay, so these are some of the features of alpha helices. And now there are variations to this alpha helices as well. And these alpha helices, okay, so the other thing which I missed out, I should have discussed it earlier, but I'm discussing it right now. The way they are arranged, so the twist can be in either direction. It can be in clockwise direction or right-handed direction, like right-handed helical conformation it can attain, or left-handed or anti-clockwise. It can twist around in both the directions, clockwise or anti-clockwise. However, the clockwise position or the right-handed helix that the polypeptide folds into, that is energetically more favorable. Okay, so the right-handed helices are energetically more favorable, you can say. And there are two variations. There are two variations of alpha helix. What are those? Two variations of alpha helix. One is 310 helix and the other is pi helix. What are these? In 310 helix, here in a normal alpha helix, there are 3.6 amino acid residues per turn and there are 13 atoms per turn. However, in 310 helix, there are rather than 3.6, there are 3 amino acid residues per turn, and apart from irrespective, here it is 13 atoms, here there are 10 atoms are involved per turn, per helical, per twist. Okay, then the other is pi helix. Here in pi helix it is, and because here there are 3 residues are involved in 10 atoms, so they are tightly packed. However, in pi helix they are loosely packed, and the hydrogen bond here in pi helix is formed between the nth carbonyl oxygen and n plus 5th amino hydrogen. Here how it is formed? Between n and n plus 4 in normal alpha helix. However, in pi helix the hydrogen bond is formed between n and n plus 5. Okay, so these are two variations. Okay, the other, as the important thing is how, because it is all the basic, the constituent, the basics are the amino acids. Okay, the bricks are amino acids. So there are certain properties of amino acids which determine whether it will whether it will form an alpha helix or a beta sheet. It depends on the properties of amino acids. So there are certain amino acids which favor alpha helix formation, or there are certain amino acid residues which favor beta sheet formation. Okay, so proline, what is the structure of proline? It is cyclic. It does not have a free amino group. However, it has an imino group. So proline, because it does not have a free amino group, it does not allow hydrogen bond formation. So helical structure, it does not allow helical structure to be stabilized. So regions which favor alpha helix formation, they lack prolines, because, and if at all there are certain prolines, they will produce certain kinks in those helical structures. Okay, because they do not have a free amino group to allow for the hydrogen bond formation. Okay, glycine, another is glycine, because the R group is single hydrogen atom, it is very small, it is very flexible, so it favors alpha helix formation. So there are certain amino acid residues which favor helical formation, alpha helical formation, or they do not allow alpha helix to form. So it all depends on what residues are present. The polypeptide will either form an alpha helix or a beta sheet. Now coming to beta sheets. What are beta sheets? Beta sheets are formed when two or more polypeptides, they align side by side, and the hydrogen bonds are formed between the adjacent polypeptide chains. Okay, and the backbone of the polypeptide chain is extended in a zigzag conformation, where such that the R groups are arranged such that it occupies the zigzag formation, a zigzag look. It looks like a zigzag structure. So the beta sheets are formed between when two or more polypeptides, they lie side by side, whereas alpha helix, single polypeptide is involved. It forms twists around an axis. So there in alpha helix, single polypeptide is involved, whereas in beta sheet, maybe single polypeptide or two or more polypeptides could also be involved. How a single polypeptide? So this is a single polypeptide, but because it is taking a U shape, this is N terminus, this is C terminus, the hydrogen bonds are formed between these residues, so that is an beta sheet. Or there may be polypeptide 1, polypeptide 2, and the hydrogen bond is formed between these two. Now these beta sheets could be of two types, parallel or anti-parallel. Parallel means if there are two polypeptides which are involved, they have the same orientation. Same orientation means their N terminus and C terminus lie on the same side. So parallel means if there are two polypeptides which are involved, their both N terminus and C terminus are in the same direction and hydrogen bonds are formed. This is parallel beta sheet. And anti-parallel if their orientations are different or the orientations are opposite. So here the hydrogen bonds are formed, that is known as anti-parallel beta sheet. Okay. And here also these beta sheets are stabilized by hydrogen bonds, and the R groups of the participating amino acids, they are not involved in the hydrogen bond formation. The hydrogen bond is formed between the carbonyl oxygen and amino hydrogen atom of the peptide bond itself. So C double bond O ka oxygen and NH ka hydrogen, that is involved in the of the peptide bond, that is involved in the hydrogen bond formation in both alpha helix as well as in beta. Different amino acids residues which favor alpha helical formation, there are certain residues here also which favor beta sheet formation. So they are proline and glycine. Why glycine? Because it is small and flexible, and proline because it has a cyclic R group. So the regions of the polypeptide which are rich in beta sheet, they have more number of proline residues as compared to the polypeptide regions which are folded into alpha helical structure. They lack proline residues. Okay, so beta sheet, they are rich in proline. Alpha helix, they lack proline. Next is loop regions. What are loop regions? We have discussed about alpha helix, we have discussed about beta sheet. Now we come to loop regions. What are loop regions? Loop regions are those areas which link two secondary structures. Okay, so these loops, they are present on the surface of the molecules and they may link two alpha helices together or alpha beta sheets together, alpha helix and beta sheet together. So these are regions which connect to alpha helices and two secondary structures for that matter. and they are present on the surface of the molecule. So now we come to loop regions. What are loop regions? Loop regions are present on the surface of the molecule and they connect two different secondary structures or two same secondary structures. So what are loops? They link two secondary structures, or they connect alpha helix and beta sheets together. Okay, so the most important type of loops are hairpin loops, which connect two anti-parallel beta sheets. Okay, two anti-parallel beta sheets, they are connected by a loop region, and it forms, these are two anti-parallel beta sheets, means they have opposite orientation, and they are connected by a loop, and it forms like a hairpin. The structure resembles that of the hairpin, so this is known as hairpin loop. Okay, now how flexible the structures are in alpha helix or beta sheet. So in general, the structures are more flexible in beta sheet conformation. The polypeptide in beta sheets, they are more extended. And why? Because they have more area. They are extended. They are not compact. The beta sheets, they are not compact as compared to the alpha helix. And in beta sheets, there are two types of beta sheets. One is parallel beta sheet and the other is anti-parallel beta sheets. Among the two parallel or anti-parallel beta sheets, the anti-parallel beta sheets, they are energetically, they are more stable and they are more favorable as compared to the parallel beta sheets. Okay, now next we come to super secondary structures. These are the secondary structures. We are discussing about super secondary structures. They are also known as motifs, and what these are, they bridge the gap between the secondary and the tertiary structure. So what are motifs? Or they are known as super secondary structures. Super secondary structures, or they are also known as motifs. They are different combinations of alpha helix or beta sheets. So what are secondary structures? For secondary structure we have either alpha helix or a beta sheet. Okay, then we have super secondary structure. It could be either alpha alpha, or it could be alpha beta, or it could be beta beta. Okay, so 2 alpha or alpha beta or beta beta, they are known as motifs, or they are known as super secondary structures. And these super secondary structures, the larger association of these super secondary structures, they form a different type of proteins. So larger association of super secondary structure. So it can be alpha 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 alpha, 4 alphas together, or it is also known as 4 helix bundle. And these are, for example, it is present in lysozyme. Okay, it is a cell wall degrading enzyme. Then there is alpha beta alpha beta alpha beta alpha beta, or beta alpha beta alpha beta. They form Roseman fold, and the example of this is lactate dehydrogenase LDH enzyme. Okay, then beta beta, how these are associated, beta 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 beta, and it forms Greek key, and the example of this is immunoglobulins. Once we'll discuss about once we'll get into immunology and we'll discuss about the structure of the immunoglobulins, we'll get to know what this Greek key is all about. So these are super secondary structures. So what are super secondary structures? Basically, these super secondary structures, they are combinations of different secondary structures, alpha helix together or alpha beta sheets together, connected by certain loops to form a specific kind of structure that is present and forms the functional unit of a particular protein, that is known as, but it is not a part of secondary tertiary structure, so that is known as super secondary structure. Okay, I hope I was clear. If you have any doubts, you can ask me in the comments section. So once again, these super secondary structures, they are different secondary structures connected by loop regions to form a functional moiety which is known as motif, and it is not up to that tertiary level, but only at the secondary level that it has attained a particular function, that is known as super secondary structure. So how this it looks like, we have secondary structure alpha helix or beta sheet. They either only alpha helices combine together to form a 4 helix bundle which is present in lysozyme. Then alpha helix and beta sheet, they could combine together, and the repeating unit of these alpha beta, it looks like a Roseman fold. The names are specific, and for the example is lactate dehydrogenase. And if only beta sheets, they are connected by loop regions, it forms the structure resembles Greek key, and the example is immunoglobulins. Okay, so this is all about super secondary structures. Now the next level is tertiary structures. Now next we have tertiary structures. So the next level of organization, the third level of organization of proteins is the tertiary structure. So what are tertiary structures? The overall three-dimensional arrangement of the particular polypeptide of all atoms which are present in the three-dimensional conformation, that is known as tertiary structure. So the tertiary structure, what is tertiary structure? The overall three-dimensional arrangement of all atoms in the polypeptide chain, the three-dimensional arrangement of those atoms is known as tertiary structure. These are defined by their various atoms and atomic coordinates, and there are various bonds. Not only hydrogen bonds are involved, but other bonds are also involved in stabilizing the tertiary structure, because it is folded into a specific three-dimensional conformation. So apart from peptide bonds and hydrogen bonds, the other bonds like hydrophilic and hydrophobic interactions and van der Waals forces, all these forces, they play important role in stabilizing that particular three-dimensional conformation, and it is these conformation that imparts functionality to a particular protein. If that particular protein is not correctly folded into the three-dimensional conformation, it will not be functional. The functionality will be lost. Folding of the polypeptide into the three-dimensional conformation is extremely essential for the protein to actually act its specific function. After this tertiary conformation, we come to quaternary structure. That is the fourth level of organization, that is the quaternary quaternary structure. For quaternary structure, majority of the functional proteins, they contain different polypeptides, more than one polypeptides, and each different polypeptide is known as monomer. And so what are quaternary structures? So how these different monomers in an oligomeric protein, how they are connected and how they interact to form the functional protein, that is known as quaternary structure. So three-dimensional structure of different monomeric units to form the functional moiety, that is known as quaternary structure. And here also different types of bonds are involved in the stabilization. Those are hydrogen bonds, covalent bonds. Covalent bonds here means the disulfide bridges which are formed between two cysteine residues, which could be on the same polypeptide or on different polypeptide units. Then there are hydrophilic and hydrophobic interactions and van der Waals interactions. So all these different kinds of interactions, they are involved in stabilizing the quaternary structure. So these are all about different levels of organization of secondary structure. I hope you all have understood the concepts. For details, you must refer to the reference books, and if you all have any doubts and queries, you can ask me in the comment section. Do hit like if you find the content useful, and subscribe to the channel and for further updates. Thank you.